Hey guys, this is gonna be how to play the new upcoming character Liang. Normally I don't do these kind of guides for characters that are not actually available in the game at the time, but Liang comes with very unique traits, and there is something in particular that you absolutely have to know before you go and pull for her. And that is that she's a very ineffective and very bad character if you don't have her portrait 1. I would even go as far and say she's unplayable without her portrait 1. And now let me show you why that is. To understand why the portrait 1 for her is such a key part for her kit to work, we have to take a look at what Liang is actually all about, and that is her ultimate. We will go and take a deeper look into this, but all you have to know for now is that she enters a status for 3 rounds, which are effectively only 2 rounds. And that status triggers her unique mechanic. So first of all, let's take a look at her portrait 1 and then take a look at what that unique mechanic actually is. Her portrait 1 makes it so that her unique mechanic, the duration of the status increases to 4, and way more importantly, that it enhances the incantation zones to 4 cards each. That is the number 1 key part, and without that, Liang doesn't really work. So now let's take a look at what her unique mechanic is. This unique mechanic divides your hand into 2 different zones. You can see on the left hand side there is a green zone with 3 cards in it, and on the right hand side there is a red zone with also 3 cards in it. These zones give your incantations benefits and enhances them. The 3 cards that you would cast out of your green zone, if they are like buff, debuff or counter incantations, their duration is increased by 1. For example, if you would use stacks of poison that last for 2 rounds, these stacks of poison would now last for 3 rounds instead. When you cast incantations from the red zone though, those would simply rank up and therefore gain additional effects and deal more damage, right? Now there's one key part here, and that is that these 2 zones can actually overlap into something called the crossover zone. You can see though that there are 2 cards here in between these 2 zones, so they would now not immediately cross over. You would have to get rid of these 2 incantations in the middle to actually create a crossover zone. With your portrait 1, that would not be the case. These zones would already cross over right out of the gate, and that is very key, because that grants you consistency and freedom in which incantations you can actually use, because now you can see that you have to get rid of these 2 incantations that are in the middle, and that would put you in jail, so to speak, because you would know you have to use these 2 incantations, or you have to move them out of the way. You waste AP, you waste time, and you waste effectiveness and efficiency. One more thing, what does the crossover zone actually do? It gives the incantations that are casted from this crossover zone the effects of both zones combined. So the buffs and debuffs duration is increased, and all your incantations are ranked up, etc. Both versions of zones are crossover, so the crossover zone grants effects from both of these zones combined. And another very important note here is that these zones do not only enhance your normal incantations, they also enhance ultimates. And if you now remember what Liang's ultimate does, it triggers this unique mechanic, and it lasts only for 2 rounds, increasing the duration. And the damage that the ultimate would actually do is incredibly important and a key part of her kit. That's a big reason why you have to create this crossover zone in the first place. And since we are talking about an ultimate that needs 5 moxie, that needs time to generate, and having 1 more round to do so is absolutely beneficial for you, and makes this whole kit and her rotation much more convenient, right? And remember the fact that you have freedom, because with the portrait 1, because you already create the crossover zone right out of the gate. You don't have to move anything around or get rid of anything, right? You have much more freedom. You are way faster and way more efficient with that Portrait 1 because of this crossover zone effect. We know why we need that Portrait 1 and why it's so key. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look into her ultimate. So this is a mass attack. It deals 300% reality damage to all enemies. It grants your entire team immunity for 1 round and 6 stacks of damage taken reduction. Those stacks can stack up to 30 times. Plus, yeah, remember the unique mechanic is triggered here. That's why you always have to use this ultimate early and keep the duration of this ultimate up at all times, at all costs. Next, we have to look at her insight, because while you are in this unique mechanic status, right? It's a key part. You have to keep this up at all times. We already figured that one out. And if you do have that active, then you you accumulate 3 different types of stacks. First of all is a stack called Justice Talon. You accumulate that one by casting incantations out of your red zone. The second stack is called Peace Talon. That is what you accumulate by using incantations out of your green zone. And we have a stack called Balance Talon. That is accumulated from using incantations out of your crossover zone. You have to accumulate these stacks for a follow-up attack, for an extra action to trigger, and that extra attack is massive. You actually have to keep an eye on which of those stacks you accumulate most, because depending on which stacks you accumulate the most, the extra attack differs. You can see here that once you have accumulated 6 stacks of Talon, for example, your mass attack, this extra action, you will deal more damage, you gain more crit damage and more crit rate. So this is like full on blast. But there's a different version. For example, if you accumulate 6 stacks of the Peace Talon, then you would apply more poison and more burn, and everything is based around you using a poison or burn team. So if you would play a team that is based around poison and or burn, you would want to use more incantations out of your green zone compared to your red zone. But in general, for most teams, they want to accumulate more Justice Talon stacks to trigger this crit rate and crit damage extra attack. Now there's one more extra attack, of course, which is based on you using incantations out of the crossover zone. But that is only really important if you would Portrait 5 her, and yeah, that is absolutely not recommended at all. But if you would, right, then you would go for this plague attack. So you would accumulate the most stacks out of your crossover zone. But again, that is only relevant if you Portrait 5 her, which is not recommended. And that's already all you have to know when it comes to how to play Liang. You have to use your ultimate, you have to create these red and green zone into your hand. You have to keep an eye on how many stacks you have accumulated out of which of those areas. And you have to keep in mind that you have to recast your ultimate from the crossover zone at all times to keep these red and green zones intact. But let's move on and take a look at her 2 other incantations as well real quick. Her incantation number 1 is a buff incantation called Bless Life, and it grants you 1 stack of Guardian's Blessing for 1 round. Guardian's Blessing it increases your damage dealt and it decreases the damage that you take. More importantly though, after you attacked or you have been attacked, you cast your incantation number 2 once for free. You always, of course, want to grant this to Liang herself. Then her incantation number 2 is an attack incantation. It deals damage and it extends the duration of all allies' Guardians Resolve by 1 round. Guardians Resolve is the damage taken reduction buff that can stack up to 30 times that you grant yourself by using your ultimate. And that's really all about it. I hope that was informative and fun. If you like Reverse 1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel, I would really appreciate it. But until next time, take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.